All right, so if you're a Subaru owner and you've been staring at that pesky P0458 error code, well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to dive in and solve this little automotive puzzle together.
Oh, that feeling. We've all been there, right? You're just cruising along, minding your own business, and bam, that little orange light pops up on your dash. The dreaded check engine light. It can mean like 100 different things. But here's the thing. That light isn't a dead end. It's actually a clue. And the clue we're going to investigate today, it's code P0458. Think of it as your car's way of pointing you in the right direction, telling you exactly where to start looking. So yeah, let's put on our detective hats and crack this case.
Okay, first things first, we've got to understand what our car is even trying to say. So what is this P0458 code telling us?
All right, the official definition. It's a bit of a mouthful. Evaporative emission system purge control valve circuit is low. I know, super technical, right? But let's break it down. All it really means is there's an electrical issue somewhere in the system that's supposed to stop gas fumes from escaping. And that last part, circuit is low, that's our big hint. It's pointing us straight towards a voltage problem. Now this code, it usually doesn't show up by itself. It likes to bring friends. You've probably noticed some other stuff going on. Maybe your car is idling a little rough, kind of shaky. That's a classic sign. And it's also tied to some really specific electrical clues, like, you guessed it, low voltage coming from the solenoid. And here's a really specific piece of evidence for our case file. This code often pops up when the battery voltage is at 10.9 volts or higher. See, this pretty much confirms it. We're not just hunting for some broken mechanical part, this is definitely an electrical mystery we're trying to solve.
Okay, so we know what the code means, we know the symptoms, now let's get to the next part of our investigation, figuring out who the bad guys are. We're going to look at the three main culprits behind a P0458 code.
This here is basically our roadmap. We've got three main suspects on the list. Could be faulty wiring, could be a bad connection, or it could be the solenoid valve itself. The good news? For each one, there's a pretty straightforward fix.
All right, let's look at suspect number one, faulty wiring. You see, that circuit the error code mentioned, it's basically a wire running from your car's brain, the ECM, to the valve, and it needs a clean path for electricity to flow. But think about it. After years of engine heat and vibrations, that wiring can get brittle or frayed, and that's exactly what causes that low circuit problem.
Okay, we've lined up our suspects. Now it's time to get our hands dirty. Well, figuratively speaking, of course. Let's walk through exactly how to fix each of these potential problems. So, for that faulty wiring, you've got to be a little methodical. First, just look at the power supply circuit. See any obvious damage? Then you're going to want to trace the wiring harness all the way from the ECM to the solenoid. If you spot a break or a frayed spot, bingo, that's your guy. And listen, this is super important because finding a bad wire now could save you from frying your ECM later. And trust me, that's a way more expensive fix.
All right, moving on to suspect number two. This one's often much simpler, and honestly, it's super common. Just a bad connection. Sometimes it's not the wire at all, it's just the plug. You know, over time, a little moisture gets in there and causes corrosion, or all those engine vibrations just kind of wiggle it loose.
And you know what? The fix for this one can be the easiest of them all. First, just find the connector on the valve. Take a really close look. See any of that green or white crusty stuff? That's corrosion. Does it feel kind of wiggly? If you see either of those, the fix is simple. Just clean up the contacts and plug it back in tight. You want to hear that satisfying click so you know it's secure.
Okay, so what if the wiring looks great and the connection is squeaky clean and tight as a drum? Well, that leads us right to our third and final suspect. The purge control solenoid valve itself has just given up the ghost. It happens. Like any part in your car, it can just wear out over time.
Now hold on. Before you run out and buy a new one, it is really important to confirm the valve is actually the problem. You can test it to be sure. If it fails that test, boom, case closed. Then the final step is to either repair it or, what's way more common, just replace the whole thing.
All right, we've looked at the clues, we've investigated all our suspects, and we've got the solutions. Now let's wrap this all up into a final action plan so you can close this case for good.
So here's the big takeaway. Your game plan should be super logical. Always start with the easiest stuff first, right? Check that connector for corrosion or just to see if it's loose. Then give the wiring a really careful inspection. And finally, if neither of those is the problem, then you can test the valve and, if you have to, replace it.
If you follow that order, you're almost guaranteed to find the solution.
So there you have it. With this plan, that check engine light isn't some big scary mystery anymore. It's just a problem, and now you have a clear path to the solution. The only real question left is, are you ready to pop the hood and solve your P0458 mystery for good?